Our next speaker is Juan Luque from Spain.
Oh, perhaps you speak in English.
Do you want to sit there?
David.
So this is forward, backwards, and if you want the pointer, you can show.
Good afternoon. Well, I am very pleased to be here today. Just a few words to introduce myself and the speech. My name is Juan Luque, and I come from Malaga University in Spain. I represent the team who made the Spanish version of the online course. Jesus Alegría received this request, and it is important to recognize that he has monitored the whole process and revised the final version. So he has always been in charge. Marisol Carrillo, Carmen Álvarez Cienfuego from Murcia University has worked very hard in the translation, and Marisol Carrillo has also played a leading role in the adaptation matters. And last but not least, Soraya Bordoy and myself has also collaborated in this task. I feel very lucky to be here, and I would like to thank the organizing committee for giving me the opportunity to participate in this great forum. So, Angela, thank you very much indeed. I realize that it's a strong responsibility for me and for the whole research team to propose you our vision of the specific feature of dyslexia in Spanish. Well, let's go down to this then. This translation, although sometimes it would be better to say adaptations, has become an opportunity to review specific features of the Spanish language, mainly by comparing them with English, but also with other languages. So there you go. Also another reason to thank to the International Forum for this opportunity. So, dyslexia is a universal disorder found in all the languages investigated. Dyslexia has been found in logographic, syllabic, and of course, in alphabetic systems. However, language varies in some characteristics. Hence, literacy process and their associated difficulties show some interesting differences between languages. Spanish, we think Spanish has at least 3 specific features which play a giant role in the manner in which phonology participate at the learning to read process. Following Ziegler and Goswami's theoretical framework, we are going to proceed in a grain-side order from the largest to the smallest side units and from the weaker to the greater impact on the contents of the course. Then we will start commenting on the influence of words' length. Then we shall follow on syllable and their structures. And finally, we will review the consistency of the grapheme phoneme rules. We are going to distinguish 2 moments or 2 processes. The first, the development process, which brings to the emergency of phonological awareness. This is the basis of the alphabetic principle. And second, the acquisition of the rules which permit grapheme to phoneme translating and conduct to rapid and correct writing word processing. We shall show these specific properties of Spanish because they have a profound impact in the way dyslexia must be treated. They have determined the Spanish version of the online course. So, it's very simple.
Oh, you want to go backwards?
I don't know what's happening here.
This is backwards.
Okay.
Forward. Okay. You want to go forward?
Okay. Well, let's begin with words length. Spanish has a high proportion of plurisyllabic words. There is a striking difference between English and Spanish related with the word length. For example, Spanish has a smaller proportion of monosyllabic words than English. We know because some time ago we tried to replicate a neural network simulation by Juan and Seidenberg, published in 2003. We didn't get to finish. So the neural network learned how to read, and they use 3,000 monosyllabic common words. When we tried to replicate the procedure, we just found 600 common Spanish monosyllabic words. So the proportion is 1 to 5, similar to the result of the last football match between Spain and Holland. You know, it was a great difference. So let us consider first how word length determine the emergency of phonological awareness. Let me remind you with the following slide, there are 4 phonological awareness levels, and how the rhymes level and intrasyllabic level imply different internal representations. Sometimes in Spanish, people confound this level. When children compare pairs of monosyllabic words, they can find these words rhymes. So you could infer children have reached an intrasyllabic level. But it's not the case. Let me give you an example about how rhymes level can work without any segmental units. Okay. Popular song and nursery rhymes can contain long words. So this way, Spanish children are early familiarized with long words. This is an example of very popular nursery rhyme. You can see how 3 and 4 syllable longs are common. It is also possible to watch the more frequent stress pattern of the Spanish word. 80% of the Spanish words have an stress pattern next to the last syllable. So let me draw your attention about the fact that when it takes out the rhyme, it obtains 2-syllable patterns. What is striking is that rhymes often sound like existing words. I don't get to see the slide, but I think that in 7 and 8 lines, the rhymes are hora. Hora is like when you say, what time is it? ¿Qué hora es? Hora is this word. And hola is in green color, is how when you say hello. So they are very common words. So other times we obtain common morphological units like in the 9th and 10th line. Arrow is the morphological unit that we use to name the jobs, okay? So children have the opportunity to practice these tasks with coarse stimuli and helped by their lexical knowledge. It is remarkable. They don't need to learn new smaller units. So well-known words, which are embedded in longer words, can be used to carry out the rhyme activities. So it's an easy way to start up the development of metaphonological knowledge. Just a few words regarding word reading. Long words also imply specific strategies to code them. In general terms, articulatory loop and verbal memory, short as well long, verbal memory, has to work very hard in order to manage these long words. Long words are usually less frequent than short words and tend to be read by a phonological route. It is also well known that a mixed strategy to read long words may be used. A long word starts to be read by phonological route. It can take the first syllable, and then a direct reading process is applied to the remaining of the word. So that's the influence of word length. Let's deal now with the main character on our story, the syllable. Spanish is an alphabetic system regarding orthography. However, it could be also considered a syllabic-oriented language. In a syllable-time language, every syllable is perceived as taking up roughly the same amount of time, although stressed syllables can be up to 50% longer in duration than non-stressed syllables. Okay? Syllables are, without doubt, an important unit to start with phonological awareness and to explain word reading learning in Spanish. Here we have again the 4 phonological awareness levels. You can see another example of how we can find a word inside another, not very long in this case. But please look at the bottom of the slide. The point here is the difference between intrasyllabic and phonemic levels and the relationship with the Spanish syllabic structure. Let's bear in mind the fact that intrasyllabic analysis always produces 2 units. It must be clear, onset and right. It doesn't matter the type of syllables. So if you apply to CV syllable, then you're going to get onset and right. This time in the syllable, in the sa syllable would be 2 phoneme. But if you apply to C, consonant, consonant, vowel, syllable structure, you are going to get an onset formed by 2 consonants and a rhyme, okay? So let us show how the complexity of syllabic structure can become so important. Here you can watch the different types of syllabic structures and how they are statistically represented. About 80% of the Spanish syllabic structures are CB, BC, and CBC patterns. The simpler structures are the most frequent ones. This way, if we apply a common phonological awareness test, for example, identification of the first sounds, to this type of syllables, children can use intrasyllabic internal representations to extract the onsets, but these onsets are also phoneme units. So this type of syllabic structures under distributional statistical properties facilitate the transition between intrasyllabic level and phonemic awareness level. Let's move on the impact on word reading. Syllables also play a role at word reading and at word reader learning. Phonic methods to teach reading have shown very good results. Nevertheless, syllabic-based methods have proved to be good as well in Spanish. We have recently carried out an intervention study, randomized control trial using syllable as units and a computer-based program with quite good results. Syllables are also crucial phonological units for the lexical access in Spanish. An interesting approach to investigating the role of syllable and its associated activation and competition processes took place in Spanish 20 years ago. The main finding was the inhibitory effect of positional syllable frequency, consists of words composed of frequent syllables produce longer reaction times than words with less frequent syllables. This phenomenon ran the opposite way that lexical frequency does. Reading a high-frequency syllable should take less time than reading a low-frequency one. So the increase in the lexical decision time in high-syllable frequency condition is a consequence of activation and competition processes beyond the decoding processes. So this adding time cannot be attributed to any decoding processes. This is the point. We have carried out a study about positional syllable frequency effects on normal and dyslexic readers in Spanish children, and we applied the classical lexical decision task. Results have shown the well-known speed difficulty, because you could see that dyslexic children are slower than controls. But what is remarkable are the differences in the processes after or beyond decoding. Syllables have to connect with the phonological lexicon, activated words, words which are starting with the same frequent syllable, and they bring competitive processes resulting in a one-word winning. So, as you can see in the slide, it is clear that these processes take to dyslexic reader 3 times more than to normal reader. So, anyway, the idea that the dyslexic reader had difficulties on lexical access is not a new one. We believe that our findings offer support to the Ramos and encoding hypothesis, according to which dyslexic people have a specific difficulties to lexical into the lexical access step. Let's move to the third and last point, the consistency of the conversion rules. The consistency of the conversion rule system is, without any doubt, the most influential factor to literacy. The Spanish writing system has advantages in this sense. It is a fully consistent system to read. However, it presents some inconsistencies regarding spelling. There are arbitrary mappings between sounds and letters, and there are also some context-dependent rules. The well-known Seymour study shows an interesting classification attending 2 dimensions, orthographic depth and syllabic structures. The Spanish system is among of the shallowest one we can find, and it also presents very simple syllabic structure. So, why Spanish is so consistent? It's a crucial feature or crucial factor is the number of vowels. Spanish has a reduced number of vowels, and their conversion rules are fully consistent in the 2 directions, reading and writing. You can compare with the example of French that appear in the table. A vowel can be written in 4 or 3 different ways, so it's difficult to learn this system. Spelling inconsistencies are limited to few consonants, like this example. There are also lexical regularity. Sometimes these regularities work as quasi-regular mapping system. For example, when these regularities are related with morphological or etymological factors. It is interesting that children who are reading in shallow orthography are also sensitive to lexical regularities. In a study by Carrillo and Alegría, primary school children were asked to write low-frequency words and pseudo words with the phoneme B in the initial position. The result that you can observe in the slide show that the use of such grapheme depends on the following vowel. Therefore, the frequency of the B-gram predicts with great accuracy the writing option of B or B. For example, children in the 2nd year, the youngest examined in the study, wrote the low-frequency words and pseudo word using grapheme B in 25% of the cases, up to 34% in the other B-grams. So this difference was significant increase between 2nd and 6th grade, indicating that sensitivity to the orthography structure of the language already presenting in 2nd grade increased with schooling. Finally, there are also complex context-dependent rules, like this example, as you can see. There is also an interesting study by Carrillo and Alegría examining this kind of complex rules, over one. The rules were 100% consistent, but complex because they require taking into account the context. And they are, it is interesting, that they were identical in French and Spanish. The results are very clear. there were important great difference between the learning rate between French and Spanish. The author thought that Ziegler and Goswami theory of grain size can explain this result due to the fact that the set of rules that the learner of French must integrate is much higher than in the case of the Spanish one. So to sum up, for us has recently write this word. Every language gets the orthographic system it deserves. So language characteristics strongly constrain the orthographic system. Spanish features like syllables and their structure clearly help to reach the highest level of phonological awareness, and Spanish are especially easy to translate into a consistent orthographic system. So it's not all gold that glitters. This facility can sometimes present disadvantages because Spanish children have reading difficulties mainly at the speed and fluency, but also they are poor speller. But what is important is that sometimes once kids reach certain level of fluency, the problem seems to disappear at the school. So this lack of sensitivity of the school and not just the reading difficulties becomes the major problem to the education of the dyslexic Spanish children. So dyslexia became an invisible disability of kind. So that's all. I'd like to take a moment to express my gratitude to you to coming here this afternoon. Thank you again to the organizer, and thank you for listening.
Thank you very much.